Dark entities called demons are considered to be beings with horns and wings. Many people think that they lead people on a path without morality and wish them only death. But is it so? Demons have learned to hide among humans and feed on their desires. They are like ordinary people learn, develop, and every year becomes more beautiful and charismatic. They do all this in order to easily get what they want. It is almost impossible to calculate such an insidious entity. Their peculiarity becomes noticeable only in an enclosed space among a large number of people. Since Jeremy Brooks had an accident the other day, he had to take public transportation to work. The man tried to be unnoticed by others, but he failed. Being among a large number of people and seeing their greedy desires, Jeremy's eyes lit up a bright red color. His beauty also drew the gazes of those around him. Today, Jeremy was unlucky enough to be caught by a local activist. The man shouted loudly that people like Jeremy had no place in the neighborhood. Jeremy was annoyed by the situation. He didn't like it when someone paid too much attention to him and made too much noise. "Excuse me, are you all right? Do you need any help?" a girl standing nearby asked Jeremy. "Mind your own business," Jeremy snarled angrily. The activist didn't like that the girl was sticking up for the dark entity. He reached out, intending to grab her shoulder. Jeremy grabbed the activist's arm, preventing him from hurting the girl. "Please let this man go," asked the girl to Jeremy. "Why? I mean, he wanted to hurt you," Jeremy wondered. "That may have been the case, but at the moment you are doing the same thing to him. I am grateful for your help, but please let this man go." Once again, the girl asked. Jeremy looked into the girl's eyes and saw that she wasn't lying. She was really worried about the activist's health at the moment. Without saying a word, Jeremy unclenched his hand. "Thank you so much." With a sweet smile on her face, the girl thanked. "Grab him! It's that man!" shouted the police officers who entered the subway car. They told the activist that they had just received a report on him. They even had video evidence with them. "I am against violence of any kind. I believe that a person can be punished by legal means," said the girl and showed the video on her phone. It turned out that she filmed the activist yelling at Jeremy on her phone. She then sent the video to the police and asked for help. Jeremy wondered how a girl who had been looking into his eyes for several minutes could remain resistant to his charms. It was a peculiarity of men like him that if you looked into their eyes for just a few seconds, you fell in love with them irrevocably. It happened to absolutely everyone, regardless of age or gender. The same thing happened to the activist. After looking into Jeremy's eyes for a few seconds, the man fell in love with him. He never wanted to part with him again. Police officers had to pull the activist away from Jeremy. Jeremy worked at a plastic surgery clinic. Because of the incident in the subway, he was a few minutes late for work. "Did something happen to you? You've never been late for work before." In the hallway, Jeremy ran into his companion, Grover. "Can you help me find one person?" Without any preamble, Jeremy asked. "I don't know. You could certainly ask some people I know, but why wouldn't you? Who are you looking for?" Grover asked, surprised. "Did you like the girl? What's her name, and how old is she? Do you even know the address where she lives, and where have you met her so far?" Grover began to pile on the questions. "I met her on the subway this morning," Jeremy replied briefly to his buddy. "Exhaustive information. How are you going to find her? Does she at least have a notable appearance? Do you remember any features? I don't understand why you're even looking for her." Grover doubted they'd be able to find the subway girl. "I need to find this girl. I want to make sure of something," replied Jeremy's buddy. Jeremy opened his office door and froze in place. In the room was the girl from the subway. In order to survive, the dark entities had to adapt to human life. They began to learn trades and work in ordinary human jobs. "Dr. Gray, good afternoon! Where are you going now? Are you going to the staff break room?" Grover met the two girls from accounting in the hallway. "Yeah, I'm taking a break. I want to get some rest," he replied to the girls. "And we want to check out the new burger place across from the clinic today. You're welcome to join us," the girls offered him. "That sounds tempting, but I had other plans for lunch." Grover replied to the girls and hurriedly excused himself. He's especially beautiful today. Have you noticed how nice he smells? Whispered the girls behind Grover's back. When Grover entered the staff room, he saw several other doctors from their clinic there. They were also dark entities. I told you to be more careful. Eat in secluded places. Don't let Jeremy see you. You remember how he reacts to blood, don't you? It's not worth it to see him unnecessarily. Grover reminded his buddies. Sorry, we'll be more careful next time, replied Momoa to him. Besides human blood, he fed on greed. I heard Jeremy took the subway to work today. In his usual tired voice, Bill said, he was fueled by human envy. He shouldn't take that risk. Last time he rode public transportation, we had to practically pull him out of a crowd of fans. Bill resented. Don't worry, it's all gone this time. Grover also poured some blood into his mug. It's too bad Jeremy gets sick of the sight of blood. He's feeding on something he doesn't understand, Momoa exclaimed and took a couple sips of blood. Is there any medicine in this world that could help him? Josh asked Grover. His main sustenance was human anger. Jeremy sat across from the girl and stared intently into her eyes. He enjoyed the sight of human pride. It was this human character trait that was his main nourishment. Tell me your name, asked the girl Jeremy. My name is Julia Quill. The girl had not expected that the man she had met on the subway that morning was a doctor. And what size breast do you want? The doctor inquired. Probably the 4th. After thinking for a moment, the girl replied, But you do realize that not everything big looks good, right? You still have to take into account your fragile physique. You're not telling me this because you're unsure of your abilities, are you? The girl asked Jeremy with a smirk. Jeremy stared at the girl. He doubted that she was an ordinary person. If she were an ordinary girl, her heart would have been broken by now. She would have literally pounced on him. Why does that girl remain indifferent to me? She is hardly a dark entity. Who is she? Jeremy thought to himself. And why on the subway today did you want to help me? Jeremy asked. It's pretty simple. When I was a teenager, it was hard for me to ask anyone for help, but luckily I had someone in my life who always helped me. Looking at you, I figured you had a similar situation. Julia explained to him. And why do you want to enlarge your breasts? Once again, Jeremy asked the question. That's private information. It doesn't concern you. In a flash, the girl's mood changed and she withdrew into herself. Well then, I'm not likely to be able to help you. You're refusing to help me because of what I told you? Doesn't that seem a little petty to you? Julia was indignant and jumped up from her seat. For another reason. I don't have a free window this month. My days are all scheduled, replied Jeremy to the girl and held out a calendar. Okay, let's not do it this month. Let's do the surgery next month or the month after, Julia suggested. The nearest available window is next year. But anyway, you can go to another clinic. I think they'll be able to find a suitable time for you. Sure, everyone knows I'm better at what I do, but if you need a boob job in a hurry, you're better off going elsewhere, Jeremy said to the girl with a smug smirk. To somehow calm down after the unpleasant conversation with the doctor, Julia decided to go to the nearest cafe. How that man pissed me off. He's such a narcissist. Couldn't make time for me. What a rude man. Julia clutched her coffee cup irritably. But I need this surgery right away. I have to get my breast enlarged before he gets here. It's not like this is the only clinic in town. I need to find myself another doctor right away. Julia grabbed her cell phone. She started calling all the surgical clinics in the city. Jeremy, what are you doing in my office? Is something wrong with you? Why did you come to see me? Grover hadn't seen his buddy in his office in a long time. They usually socialized in the hallway or in the cafeteria. Now I was having surgery, and for a short time I felt completely normal. For a few minutes I wanted to taste blood again, but then that urge passed and the revulsion reappeared, told Buddy Jeremy. We need to find out the cause of what happened. I can't understand why, for just a brief moment, I was normal again. Has anything unusual ever happened in your life? I think this manifestation must have been preceded by some reason, Grover asked thoughtfully. It's similar to the situation when people stop taking their medication. They feel fine for a while, but then they inevitably get sick again. If you think of anything unusual, be sure to tell me. And something strange happened today. I met a girl this morning, and nothing happened to her when she looked me in the eye. Jeremy admitted. Why are you only telling me about this now? Don't tell me this is the girl you want to find. Grover exclaimed in amazement. Julia got a call from the plastic surgery clinic. A pleasant female voice said that Dr. Jeremy Brooks wanted to talk to the girl again. And why did you call me here? I was almost to my house. I had to go back. Julia resented it in Jeremy's office. I asked you here because I need to tell you something. Do you still want to do the surgery? Jeremy smelled a strange odor in the office. Sure, or do you think I came here because I have nothing else to do? The girl exclaimed irritably. Jeremy took a red stone pendant out of his pocket and showed it to her. Julia froze for a moment, staring at the jewelry. The girl noticed that the stone was the same color as the doctor's eyes. Oh, I'm sorry, I got too close to you. And why are you showing me this pendant? The girl asked the doctor. Jeremy realized that the reason for the change in him was the girl's eyes. I don't understand. You called me here to show me this stone? Julia made a colossal effort to hold back her rising anger. I'm going to kiss you right now, warned the girl the doctor, rising from his seat. What? The girl asked fearfully and jumped aside. Don't you dare come near me. I have a black belt in karate, Julia warned. If you can look me in the eye after kissing me and reject me afterward, I'll do the surgery. On your hands? Jeremy needed to test his theory right now. The girl couldn't believe what was happening. Was this doctor really going to kiss her? Should she agree to a kiss with an unknown man? I like someone already! The girl exclaimed and pushed Jeremy away from her. What's happening to me? This is the first time I've been rejected. Jeremy tried to briefly analyze his new emotion, disappointment. What a nightmare. This man took me by surprise. Just a little more, and I would have kissed him. The girl thought to herself with horror. Starting tomorrow, you will be working at this clinic, said Jeremy to the girl. In this hospital, but why? What does it have to do with my surgery? The girl wondered. If you want me to do your surgery, you're going to have to work here. If you get a job here as staff, I'll do your surgery as soon as my schedule clears up at least a little. Jeremy explained to the girl. But I already have a job, and a pretty good one. I don't want to lose it. It was the first time the girl had heard that she had to work in a hospital for a while to have the operation. I'm offering you an even higher salary than your old job. The job is dust-free, the schedule is flexible. Aren't those the best conditions? And why is it that you have suddenly changed your attitude toward me so abruptly? Do you mean to say that you have fallen in love with me? Answer honestly, what do you want from me? The girl realized that there was a catch in the doctor's suggestion. The thing is, for some reason, I can't stand the sight of blood. I got tired of restraining myself during surgeries, so I had to get into surgery planning. But I've noticed that when I see you, I feel better. Jeremy confessed to the girl. Doctor, don't you think you're talking nonsense right now? Are you really in love with me? You'd better tell me the truth. I'm quick to recognize lies. The girl didn't believe a word the doctor said. But be that as it may, I'll agree to your terms. Just keep in mind that I'll be combining my old job with my work at the clinic. Somehow it seems to me that you really need my help. I'm ready to give it to you. The next day at 9 o'clock sharp, Julia entered the clinic. A pretty girl met her at the reception desk. Do you have an appointment? Asked the girl at the front desk. No. As of today, I'm working as a doctor's assistant with Jeremy Brooks. The front desk girl escorted Julia to Dr. Brooks's office. Why are you frozen on the doorstep? Come on in and close the door behind you. Jeremy grumbled in a disgruntled voice. This will be your room. I put all the essentials in there. The bathroom is outside on the left. Jeremy showed the girl her new workspace. Looking around the room, the girl noticed that the interior was made in dark colors. If other guys come in here when I'm gone, ignore them. Now get settled in. I'll be right there, Jeremy said and walked out of the office. While Jeremy was away, Julia decided to explore his office. She noticed that everything was in perfect order. On the table, the girl noticed an upside-down photo frame. Julia was curious, so she turned the picture frame over to see who was in the picture. The picture was of a dark-haired girl. What a beautiful woman! Is that his girlfriend? Julia thought to herself. The girl was so absorbed in looking at the pictures that she didn't notice the man entering the room. Better put that picture back where it belongs. Dr. Brooks isn't likely to like it, you touching his things, whispered Momoa in the girl's ear. So you're the cure? Momoa asked the girl. I'm sorry for scaring you. My name is Momoa. I work at this clinic. The man extended his hand to the girl for a handshake. When the girl took Momoa's hand, she felt the heat in her palm. Momoa possessed the ability to captivate people by touch. If a person touched his hand, he stopped captive. Afterwards, Momoa used these people for his own selfish purposes. As they approached Jeremy Grover's office, he noticed Bill and Josh sitting on the doorstep. What's going on here? Who are you guys guarding so amicably? Grover asked in surprise. Jeremy invited a patient into his office, and she is still there. We're extremely curious as to why he did it. Bill confided to his buddy. Move over. I want to look at her too. Grover tried to see the girl in the small target. And why did that Jeremy guy bring you here? Asked Momoa to the girl. Julia remembered that Dr. Brooks had asked her to ignore the guys entering the office. I can't tell you that. It's my secret. I need to work, so let go of my hand, please. Julia asked the guy. Wait, what do you mean, let go of my hand? Why aren't you answering my question? When you hold my hand, what do you even feel anything? Momoa asked, surprised. For once, he was unable to captivate a girl. Does your heart not beat harder? Or do you see me in some other way? Momoa continued to ask. I don't feel anything. What should I? The girl asked and pulled her hand out. Who is that, anyway? Why did Jeremy bring this creature here? Momoa thought to himself fearfully. From that moment on, all the dark entities present in the clinic decided to seduce the girl. The second to enter the office was Bill. His method of seduction was the voice. No matter how hard he tried, the girl remained indifferent to him. After Bill, Josh entered the office. He seduced people with his handsome face. When she saw Josh, Julia noted to herself that he was quite handsome. She didn't feel any other emotions. The last to enter the office was Grover. He exuded pheromones that made people fall in love with him. I apologize. I had to put pieces of absorbent cotton up my nose. The problem is that I can't stand pungent odors, and you have a rather fragrant cologne. The girl apologized to Grover. When Jeremy returned to the office, he saw Julia surrounded by her buddies. What's going on here, anyway? I see you've decided to have some fun in my office while I'm gone, Jeremy asked his buddies. Be on your guard, or one of these guys will steal that girl from you, Jeremy Grover warned. I think I made it clear. Ignore the guys if they show up here. If you're planning on making friends with them, that's not a good idea, Jeremy said to the girl after all the dark entities had left his office. I didn't want to talk to them. They came into your office on their own and started harassing me. Julia began to justify herself. From now on, I will do nothing but what you tell me to do, and I'll ask you to call me into work only when you have any tasks and assignments for me. The girl exclaimed indignantly and left with a loud slam of the door. Jeremy invited the girl to work every day and asked her to look him in the eye regularly. Can we stop doing this nonsense? This whole thing is starting to piss me off, the girl exclaimed irritably. Julia wanted to leave Jeremy's office, but she accidentally slipped on a candy bar. The girl began to fall. She noticed that the doctor was in no hurry to help her. Jeremy put out his hand and pulled the chair toward him with an invisible force. Girl lands a nice shot to that chair. Strange. A chair. I don't think it was here before. Julia thought to herself in surprise. At lunchtime, the girl went in search of the dining hall. After a while, Julia still managed to find a small local canteen in the clinic. Here the staff ate their lunches and drank coffee. The girl reached for a mug. The only clean mug was on the top shelf. Bill came up to her and handed her a mug. Julia noted to herself that of all the guys in the group, this one was the most taciturn. Shit, what's his name? Completely slipped my mind. Julia tried to strain her memory. My name is Bill. I heard from Grover that you're helping Jeremy. Please take care of him, asked the girl Bill. I wonder if I'm allowed to socialize with this person. But he was the first person to talk to me. It's not proper to ignore people. And on top of that, this person has such a nice voice. Julia's mind raced. You must be very close to Dr. Brooks? The girl asked. Yes, he and I have been friends for years, replied Bill to the girl. The silent Bill frightened Julia a little, but surprisingly, he talked to her quite friendly. The girl decided to herself that Bill was a good man. I have absolutely no idea where this girl came from. The other day, I saw her flirting with Dr. Brooks. Yesterday, she was smiling at Dr. Gray, and today she's making eyes at Bill. The ladies in accounting were outraged. Looks like this chick has set her sights on seducing all our doctors. Julia, since you started working here, our clinic has become a lot more fun. Bill sensed that the ladies around him were feeling envious of Julia. It was this human emotion that fueled him. Jeremy watched Julia working. It had been days since he'd been disgusted at the sight of blood. Lately, he had been seeing it simply as red water. He was extremely curious as to why such an amazing effect was created. Julia, do you have plans for tonight? Jeremy asked the girl. Yeah, I'm having dinner with a friend of mine. Why? Cancel your meeting. You'll spend tonight with me. We'll go to my house, said Jeremy to the girl. What are you implying? And why on earth would I go to your house? Are you out of your mind? Julia was indignant. I'm not going to touch you. I just want to experiment on something, Jeremy explained to the girl. What do you mean, experiment? I'm not going anywhere with you. At work, I have to do whatever you tell me to do, but my personal time is my own. You can't tell me what to do after work, Julia continued. Regardless of my position, you have no right to try to bring me to your home. This is some kind of madness. Please help me. Jeremy had time to notice that Julia had a hard time saying no to people when they asked for help. Okay, but you better operate on me in the most perfect way possible. Do you understand me? Julia said irritably. Julia had to lie to her friend that her grandmother wasn't feeling well, so they couldn't meet. She hated lying, but there was no other way out at the moment. She was willing to do anything for the operation. And it's all because of him, Julia thought irritably, looking at Jeremy's profile. By the way, why did we take the car? It's rush hour and the roads are jammed. Wouldn't it have been better to take public transportation? Julia asked. I try not to ride buses and subways, Jeremy confessed to the girl. Julia decided to herself that the man does not ride public transportation because he is too arrogant and does not like people. But I first met you on the subway, didn't I? So why do you say you've been avoiding it? Julia wondered. On the day in question, my car was in for repairs. Not long before that, I had a small accident. Now my car is running, so we're going to drive it. Julia, going up to Jeremy's apartment, felt a little apprehensive. She didn't want to be alone with this man. She was also afraid that Jeremy had promised to pay her for the evening. Dr. Brooks, how old are you? I think you're about 30. The girl decided to talk to get rid of the sticky fear. You guessed it. That's about right for me, Jeremy said with a smirk. Jeremy's apartment amazed Julia with its size. It was enormous. There were paintings, vases, and statuettes everywhere. She noted to herself that Dr. Brooks was very rich. Hopefully tonight will go smoothly. There don't seem to be any suspicious objects around. Julia excused herself from Jeremy to the kitchen for a drink of water. Everything seems fine in this house. The only thing that's confusing is the painting in the hallway. I wouldn't want a painting of demons in my house. Maybe that man is a devil worshipper? Julia suddenly thought to herself, if he's honoring the dark force, I can't be in this apartment for long. I need to come up with some excuse to leave as soon as possible. Jeremy motioned for the girl to go into the bathroom. Standing on the threshold of the room, the girl saw a sink filled with blood. Come into the room. Don't just stand on the threshold. If you don't right now, I'm going to drag you in here by force. Viciously, through gritted teeth, Jeremy hissed. Julia froze fearfully in place. Okay, if you don't want to come in, at least give me your hand. Already in a calm voice, Jeremy said. The man realized he wasn't going to get anywhere with threats. Julia reached out her hand and gently placed it in Jeremy's palm. Jeremy cowered against the sink-filled roof. As expected, he felt nothing. No fear, no disgust, no bloodlust. The change in him was happening the moment he made contact with Julia. As soon as he looked into the girl's eyes, he stopped being disgusted by blood. When he touched the girl, he lost his appetite. What happens if we go beyond touching and looking? Jeremy thought to himself and hugged the girl. What on earth are you doing? The girl exclaimed and pushed Jeremy away from her. Why all of a sudden do you want to cuddle with me? You wanted to experiment. You didn't tell me you were going to hit on me. You asked for my help, so why are you being so handsy? I think that's enough for today. The experiment is over, Jeremy said suddenly. How is it over? Why is it over so quickly? Julia asked, surprised, but the man ignored her. Well, since I'm done experimenting for the day, I'm going home. Julia headed for the main entrance. I'll drive you, said Jeremy to the girl. You don't have to, and I can handle myself. I'll take the subway home, so I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, how are you doing? Momoa walked into Julia's room. What are you doing here? Why aren't you at your workplace? Asked the girl. I'm done with all my business, so I thought I'd stop by and see you. Julia glanced at Jeremy. Today he was working at his computer and hadn't touched the girl all day. They hadn't even talked much. Momoa, I'm gonna lunch. Are you with me? Jeremy asked his buddy. Yes, of course, for I have a great deal to tell you. I've collected just a huge amount of different gossip, Momoa exclaimed happily. Wait, I want to ask you something about Dr. Brooks. Julia grabbed Momoa's arm. Momoa decided to turn on his entire sense of smell, so he gently kissed the girl's hand. So, what did you want to ask me about Dr. Brooks? Momoa asked. Is Dr. Brooks sick by any chance? I was at his apartment yesterday, and he was acting pretty strange. Also, there are a lot of paintings of various demons in his house. I think he's a serious believer in otherworldly forces. The girl whispered fearfully. You know, and Dr. Brooks is really a bit superstitious, replied Momoa to the girl, hiding his smile behind the palm of his hand. He held back from laughing with the last of his strength. Just the other day, something strange happened. I slipped and started to fall, but suddenly I landed on a chair. I don't know where it came from. I remember for sure that this chair was standing a few meters away from me. Then how did it end up under me? Julia said in the same ominous whisper. Maybe you imagined it? There was a chair behind you and you just didn't notice it? Momoa couldn't believe that Jeremy was using his superpowers in front of this girl. He must have definitely lost his mind. And I'm also confused by the fact that Dr. Brooks was in an accident a few days ago and is acting extremely calm. He's talking about the accident like it's nothing. It all seems very suspicious. Look, let's discuss these matters with you some other time. I have to go now. Momoa hurriedly withdrew before the girl asked him a few more uncomfortable questions. There is something strange going on in this clinic. Every time I ask questions, the people around me try to change the subject or go somewhere else. I feel like they're hiding something from me. Julia pondered in the ladies' room. Damn, she pisses me off. Have you noticed how easy and effortless she's made it at the clinic? I bet it's all about her looks. Julia heard female voices. Several ladies were discussing their coworker. That girl is an eyesore. Every time I look at her, she's always hanging around the doctors. Do you remember her name? I think it was Julia or something. I saw Dr. Momoa Shin walk into her office again. It's just unbelievable. He doesn't pay as much attention to anyone as he does to her. The last time Julia heard gossip about herself was in her senior year of high school. Many guys remarked that she was quite pretty. Envious boys whispered that the girl was an uneducated orphan. The girl knew that there would always be people around who were jealous, even though there was nothing to be jealous of. When she heard another gossip, Julia couldn't stand it and threw a textbook at the offender's face. I heard you guys were having an entertaining conversation here, so I thought I'd join in. Julia hadn't liked gossipers and envious people since high school. Listen, there's a scandal brewing. Very interesting. Josh put his ear to the door of the women's restroom. It would be great if they did fight. That'd be a lot of negative emotions coming out at once, Josh exclaimed. He and Bill decided to wait for the fight to end in the hallway near the restroom. Listening to the quarrel, Bill was fueled by the emotion envy, and Josh was fueled by the emotion anger. The two often walked together because among people, envy often created anger. You're taking a lot on yourself. No one said anything about you just now. You weren't officially hired here at all. You're a nobody at this point. In a couple months, you won't be in this clinic anymore, said a girl with bright lipstick to Julia. Besides, everybody knows how you got the job. And if it wasn't for Dr. Brooks, you'd never get the job. You're at the clinic all day because of Dr. Brooks. That's it. Are you done? You think I like Dr. Brooks? But you've got it all wrong. Look at this, Julia exclaimed and showed the envious girls pictures of her boyfriend. I have no need to reach for Dr. Brooks, as I already have a young man. He's tall, handsome, and very intelligent. His name is Carl Johant. He's a supermodel and a rising star of romantic television series, and he's the type of man I really like. What do you think about him? Julia asked the girl with the bright red lips. Well, what can I say? He's pretty cute, the girl answered her. See, you have good taste too. I think we're going to be friends. If you want, I can show you some more pictures of Carl. Damn, someone's anger has evaporated, exclaimed Josh. And the envy is gone too, Bill remarked. Returning to her workstation in the hallway, Julia ran into Jeremy. Why did you let them go so easily? If you had done something about it, you wouldn't have lost anyway, said Jeremy. Did you hear our whole conversation? I didn't want to fight them. I only got into the altercation because they started gossiping like I got here because of you. It could have had a negative effect on your reputation. The girl admitted to him. Jeremy was struck by the fact that the girl wasn't worried about her reputation, but about his. Usually people did the opposite. When Julia returned to her workplace, she met Momoa and Glover in Dr. Brooks's office. Is it true what they say that you are in love with supermodel Carla Juhanta? Momoa asked the girl. You heard everything too? Julia asked in surprise. She noted to herself that the walls in this clinic were extremely thin. Gossip spreads in a matter of seconds. The next time those ladies come after you, just beat them up, advised the girl Grover. In the evening, Momoa came up to her and confessed to her that he was very hungry. Julia advised him to go to a restaurant and not to torture his body. Well, I can't eat in peace because of you, Momoa confessed to the girl. Julia's presence in the clinic was taking a toll on his well-being. Julia achieved respect among the clinic staff. So over time, emotions such as envy, anger, and greed faded away. Just a little longer and I'll die, Momoa said in a weakening voice and laid his head on Julia's desk. Don't you dare give up. Don't you have any money left for food? Did Dr. Brooks cut your salary to pay me? The girl really wanted to support Momoa. You're so nice. You worry about my paycheck. If it were up to me, I'd eat you right now. Momoa suddenly became enthusiastic and rubbed the girl by her soft cheeks. I'm hungry, shouted Josh, entering Jeremy's office. Bill and Grover were already present in the room. The dark entities had gathered in one place to find a solution to the problem at hand. Look at Momoa! He's already dead! Josh shouted, pointing to Momoa leaning against the wall. Why are you sitting there? Why aren't you doing anything? If this keeps going on like this, we're all waiting to slowly pass away. Josh blazed with anger. And what options do you suggest for solving the problem? Grover asked him. I mean, we have tons of opportunities. We should definitely come up with something in no time. By the way, I already have an idea. Josh's eyes flashed with an unkind light. A company of dark entities decided to go to a movie theater. It was a place to feed on negative emotions. Hey, did you forget me? And I don't understand why you had to drive all the way out here. It's a 10-minute walk from our clinic to the movie theater. An annoyed Julia got out of the car. You see, we're very pretty, so we try not to show up on a crowded street, smugly replied Momoa to the girl. It's been a long time since I've been to a movie theater. It's even fun. Jeremy grumbled as he closed the car doors. How about we watch a survival movie? Bill suggested. Josh exclaimed that he liked college comedies better. Since the company had a different opinion about the movie, everyone went to their own show. Only Julia and Jeremy remained by the poster. I don't understand at all why you go to different movies when you get together. You're friends. Don't you want to socialize with each other? Julia asked, surprised. We have different tastes, especially food preferences. I don't see anything wrong with that. Let everyone do what they like, replied Jeremy to the girl. Julia told Jeremy that she wanted to watch a melodrama. The man didn't care where he went because he didn't like movies. Movies are a waste of time. I'd rather go home and do some paperwork. People just kill their time watching pathetic characters on the screen. They're so empty. Jeremy thought to himself throughout the movie. When the whole company gathered again in the hall of the movie theater, the girl noticed that absolutely everyone was in high spirits. Julia, why don't we go to the bar and have a drink? Momoa suggested to the girl. Grover asked the bar hostess for a small private room with a door. He explained that he did not want his company to be disturbed. Do you drink a lot? Aren't you afraid of falling down after the first glass? Momoa asked the girl after she had emptied her first glass. The girl answered him that it was too early to stop. She wanted to continue the banquet. After a couple more drinks, Julia fell asleep near the wall. Jeremy pushed Grover so hard that his back hit the wall after flying a few meters. What did you put in her drink? Jeremy asked in an angry voice. Yeah, same as always, her pheromones. Only this drink wasn't meant for her. It was meant for Josh. She snatched the glass from me and drank the drink herself. Grover had an amazing ability. He produced demon-intoxicating pheromones. In humans, however, these pheromones had an extremely negative effect. People could behave inappropriately or excessively. The impression was that the person was under heavy psychotropic drugs. You can keep swearing, of course, but I'm getting tired of holding her like this. Momoa resented. Momoa had the power of telekinesis. He used his power to suspend the girl from the ceiling and hold her down. The girl had to be suspended from the ceiling after she, having slept, started running around the room. Jerking in her sleep, Julia suddenly kicked Momoa in the head. Momoa lost concentration, and the girl flew down. Luckily, the girl was caught by Bill. Put her on the floor immediately, Jeremy demanded in a voice ringing with anger. And how long will this amazing effect last? Momoa asked Grover. The man told him that the pheromone had an effect on a person for 5 hours. Should have guarded that fucking drink. Shouldn't have let that particular glass be the one she drank. What are we supposed to do now for 5 hours? The whole evening's a mess. Josh resented. Should I give her sleeping pills? Maybe it will quiet her down, Bill asked. She can't be sedated. She is, now you might say, under the influence. If we give her sleeping pills, her system might not be able to handle it. We'll just stay here until she comes to her senses. Jeremy spoke in a calm voice. Jeremy, look at that! Those present looked behind Jeremy's back with frightened eyes. When the man turned around, he saw the door open. Don't tell me she ran away, exclaimed Jeremy. And how are we going to find her? The bar and the street as well is full of people. If we go out into the crowd, our abilities will start to show. We can't take that risk, Momoa said excitedly. Ignoring his buddy's words, Jeremy left the room. Bill and Josh stay here, and Momoa and I will follow Jeremy. If she comes back, you guys dial me immediately. Grover ordered his friends. Jeremy saw Julia entering the building, but a crowd of girls prevented him from walking toward her. The girls blocked his way and admired his beauty. You're so handsome. You must be some kind of star. Can we touch you? The girls asked. Jeremy managed to shoo the girls away and chased after Julia. When he spotted her on the stairs, the man called her name. Julia turned to him and showed her tongue. I'll catch you and you'll get your tongue, Jeremy warned the girl. Running out onto the roof of the building, Jeremy noticed a girl standing at the very edge of the concrete fence. And how did you know I'd be here? Smiling happily, the girl asked. How glad I am that you came here after all. Julia hugged Jeremy tightly. You came here to see me. How sweet of you, Carl. The girl whispered softly. Why isn't Julia answering my messages? It's night in Paris. It's morning in her city. Carl stared at his unread message. What was the girl doing now? Maybe she spent the night at a friend's house, so she can't answer me quickly? Though no, that's something she'd probably tell me about. Carl dialed his assistant and asked the man for tickets for the next flight. He really wanted to see Julia. What a terrible pain in my head. I wonder what happened yesterday. What a thing to pass out after 3 glasses of alcohol, grumbled the girl getting out of bed. Suddenly, the girl felt something holding her hand. She looked down and saw the handcuffs. The girl looked around and noticed that she was not alone in the room. And in fact, she wasn't in her own home right now. Quickly explain to me what is happening now. Where am I? Why are you here with me and without clothes? Irritatedly, the girl shouted. Don't ever go out drinking again, muttered Jeremy lying next to me. Julia glanced at her phone. She had several missed calls from Carl. The girl tried to remember the previous evening, but only fragments of memories popped up in her head. She couldn't really remember what had happened to her last night. I don't remember anything from the moment we started drinking, Julia admitted. Girlfriend, you had too much to drink last night. You even made a fuss about a daredevil driver on the way home. We almost had an accident. So Jeremy handcuffed you so you wouldn't do anything stupid, told the girl Momoa. Well, you're all awake at last. Let's hurry to the table and have breakfast together. A cheerful Grover came into the room. Dr. Brooks, when are you going to uncuff me? I need to wash my face. Julia showed Jeremy her handcuffed hand. Putting his hand behind his back, Jeremy constructed a key out of thin air. Suddenly, Julia's gaze fell on Bill. The man was putting on his shirt. The girl noted to herself that although he was thin, his muscles were well drawn. Julia, do you want me to make you breakfast? Noticing the girl's look, Bill asked. Jeremy clenched his hand into a fist. The key shattered into tiny pieces. Look, I hate to break it to you, but I don't have the key. I lost it somewhere. Jeremy showed the girl his empty palm. We'll have to walk around chained together all day long. Stay outside the door, Julia said irritably. She didn't like the fact that Dr. Brooks had chained her up and lost her key. Julia reached for the toothpaste, but accidentally pushed it off the shelf and it fell to the floor. The girl pried open the bathroom and waved a finger at Jeremy, entering the bathroom again. But now with Jeremy, Julia managed to pick up the toothpaste from the floor. Now you can go out again. There's nothing to see here. Again, Julia said in an irritated voice. When Jeremy and Julia went down to the dining room, they saw Grover. The man was drinking greedily from a mug. Noticing the guests, Grover hid the mug sharply behind his back. Grover, you must have eaten something spicy. Your lips are red for some reason. Or maybe they're weathered and chapped, Julia exclaimed. A frightened Grover covered his face with his hand. He didn't want the girl to guess that he had blood on his lips. Jeremy quickly began constructing a glass of pomegranate juice out of thin air. Creating a glass, Jeremy threw it on the floor. Are you okay? Didn't hurt yourself anywhere? Julia exclaimed fearfully and stood up to examine Jeremy's hands. Yeah, I should be more careful next time. Julia isn't affected by our powers, so it's pretty hard for us to fool her. Grover thought to himself, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. Since the pomegranate juice got on Julia's clothes, she had to change into Josh's sweatshirt and pants. Well, everyone's finally washed and changed. Now we can definitely start eating, Grover exclaimed when he saw Jeremy and Julia in the kitchen again. Wow, Grover, did you really cook all this yourself? You're so good, Julia exclaimed in admiration as she looked around the table. Grover, not only do you have time to prepare several dishes at once, but they are also incredibly delicious. Julia praised Grover incessantly. I'm very glad you liked it. If you're not full, ask for more. I have plenty left. Grover answered her with a smile. Turning her head toward the window, the girl noticed a kitten. He held the key to the handcuffs in his teeth. She didn't know that a few minutes earlier, Jeremy had asked Josh for help. He was tired of being strapped to Julia. You little prankster! Do you really enjoy hiding objects from me all the time? Josh exclaimed, squatting down in front of the kitten. The boy had a unique ability. He could talk to animals and control them. I'm so glad I found the key after all. Come on, hurry up and uncuff me, Julia asked Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Brooks, by the way. Try not to get my name mixed up next time. Jeremy remembered the previous night the girl had called him Clark. Strange, I'm already drinking my second pack of blood, but I can't taste it in any way, Momoa exclaimed in surprise. I'm not surprised at all. You're drinking it by the gallons, Bill said in a nonchalant voice. I must be having déjà vu. I've had someone complain to me before about not being able to taste blood. Grover thought to himself. Right. Those are the words I heard Jeremy say. Does Julia have an effect on more than just him? Is this girl really the cure? When Julia woke up in the morning, she realized that she felt very sick. Her stomach hurt, and she felt a little nauseous. Before work, she had to go to the pharmacy to get some medicine. You're late. Next time you decide to stay late, call ahead and give me a heads up, Jeremy said without taking his eyes off the computer. The girl didn't answer him, which made Jeremy a little wary. He looked up and saw Julia's pale face. I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up beforehand. I'm just not feeling well today. Julia walked slowly to her room. Jeremy, I need to talk to you, but only in private. Grover appeared on the threshold of the office. Grover noticed a Band-Aid on the girl's arm. Julia told him that yesterday she had hurt her hand on the edge of the table, but by today the wound was almost healed. Let's go outside. I need to discuss some hospital business with you. Grover beckoned Jeremy to follow him. Grover led Jeremy to the staff break room. Momoa drank blood this morning, but couldn't taste it. I'll think it has something to do with Julia. Contact with her increases immunity to blood, but the effect depends on the length of the contact itself. Grover began to explain. Does the contact happen when I look into a girl's eyes? And why does it only work on me and Jeremy? Momoa asked, surprised. How long have you been smelling Julia's blood? Grover asked Jeremy. Are you implying that there's something wrong with Julia? Inquired Jeremy's buddy. Didn't you notice anything? As soon as I stepped into your office, I could smell Julia's blood, and that little wound on her arm had nothing to do with it. Grover answered him. By the way, I can smell her blood too, Bill admitted. Well, since you have nothing more to say to me, I'll be on my way. I think you are jumping to conclusions, Jeremy said, and walked out of the office. Walking down the hallway, Jeremy heard cautious footsteps behind him. When he turned around, he saw Bill. You noticed me after all. I'm following you as I'm worried about you, Bill admitted. So you're worried about Julia too? Jeremy asked. No. What does she have to do with this? I already told you I'm worried about you. Why aren't you telling me anything? You're being too carefree about solving your problem. You've noticed that you're constantly angry and displaying previously unknown abilities. It makes me worry. You always behave this way. It's nothing new. You're constantly horrified when you see behavior beyond your natural instinct. To put it bluntly, I have absolutely no idea what's bothering you, confessed Jeremy to his buddy. Julia came out of her office to, as always, make eye contact with Jeremy before the upcoming surgery. If your stomach really hurts, you can go home. You don't have to push pity on me, said Jeremy to the girl. I'll decide when I should go home and when I shouldn't. Julia snapped at him and disappeared into her office, slamming the door loudly. If he's so worried about me, he could have said something nice. As soon as I get the surgery done, I'll get out of here right away, Julia promised herself. Returning home in the evening, the girl noticed two suspicious guys in an alleyway. Hey, girlfriend, how do we get to the classical surgery clinic? Suddenly, Julia heard a low, squeaky voice. I don't know. It's my first time here. Julia decided to pretend that she had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. Oh, really? And I saw you just come out of that clinic building. Why are you being so rude? Why don't you tell us more about the place you work at? The dark-haired guy asked the girl. Julia ran away, but she couldn't get far. The girl's stomach ached so badly that she had to squat down. You were going to run away from us? Won't you get away with it? A dark-haired guy in a white mask whispered in the girl's ear. Tell us more about your relationship with those doctors. I have nothing to tell you about them. Let me go. These doctors have a pretty good standing in the community. They're law-abiding. What else do I have to tell you? Julia grimaced in pain. Forget about her! What are you babysitting her for? Let's break her something, then she'll definitely become more talkative. The blonde-haired guy exclaimed and swung a rock at the girl. Suddenly, Jeremy felt disgusted with blood again. Strange, that can't be. The effect couldn't have disappeared in such a short time. Jeremy thought to himself in surprise. "Doctor, is something wrong?" Noticing Jeremy's confusion, the nurse asked. "Nothing's wrong, everything's fine. We're going ahead with the surgery." A few hours ago, Jeremy had asked Bill if he could follow Julia. If the girl was safe, Jeremy would feel good about himself. The blonde-haired boy sat on the ground and wiped the blood from his face. A black yard cat had scratched his forehead and nose a few seconds ago. Bill and Josh approached the scene of the showdown. "Julia, go home and we'll deal with these guys next." Josh turned to the girl. "Our clinic has excellent security that we hired from a private company. So don't worry about us. Go home. You'll only get in our way here. And don't call the police. We'll take care of this ourselves." "Be careful," Julia asked the boys. She hated to leave Josh and Bill with the bullies, but the boys forbade her to stay with them. "So guys, where's your praised security?" asked a dark-haired guy to Bill. "And here she is!" Josh exclaimed, and his eyes glowed an unkind red color. When Jeremy came out of the operating room, he saw Bill in the hallway. Julia was recently attacked by a couple of some bastards. One of them had a black mark on his body. I don't know exactly who did it, but I think the devil himself orchestrated the attack. Bill whispered in Jeremy's ear. "I've gathered you all here to tell you that Julia was attacked by representatives of the devil yesterday," Bill announced to everyone in the break room. The attackers were definitely human, branded with the Chan Gang symbols. Those are the symbols he uses to mark his gang. But Josh found the mark of the devil on one of the thugs. "A man died before we could get anything out of him. The man was practically torn to pieces before our eyes. Of all the dark creatures, only a demon from the Devil of Lust's line can leave marks. But somehow, I thought we were the only ones in this country. Dark creatures haven't shown themselves in any way before," said Grover. Just how did that demon get wind of Julia's peculiarities and find her? He didn't have to know her abilities. He could have gotten to us with her help. He could have taken the girl hostage and blackmailed us, or he could have killed her as a warning. Bill spoke in an emotionless voice. "Jeremy, what do you suggest we do? What if me and Josh don't make it next time?" Bill asked his buddy. Suddenly the room shook. Books fell from the cabinets and the walls cracked. "Jeremy, if that's you, stop it! At this rate, you're going to destroy the whole building!" shouted Momoa fearfully. "What happened?" Coming out of his trance, Jeremy asked. "You're a little rambunctious right now. Next time, try not to do that again," asked his buddy Bill. "It's bad enough that Jeremy is out of control of his emotions again. The last time that happened, some people got hurt." Grover thought to himself, "We can't take any active action at this point. We simply don't know who we're dealing with. All we can do is keep an eye on Julia. We can't let her be harmed in any way," said Jeremy. "Why are you all gathered in one room?" Julia asked as she entered the room. "We decided to have a friendly get-together tonight," Josh explained to the girl. "Well, I'm going to go get some coffee then. I take it there's no work at the moment," said Julia. Momoa volunteered to walk the girl out. The next day, Julia came to work in a beautiful dress and with light makeup on her face. "Julia, you look so beautiful today. Is something wrong?" Surprised, Momoa asked. "I'm meeting my favorite person tonight," the girl confessed. Walking towards the evening, Julia had no idea she was being followed. "Did you hear what he says? Going to meet the man you love? I must see with my own eyes what kind of a man he is. Suddenly he's a danger," Josh said indignantly. "She's about to go down to the subway station. What do we do? If we stay here, we'll miss her," Grover exclaimed. "So why are you standing there? Come down next," Jeremy ordered, putting on his sunglasses. "Are we really going to go to the subway? But I've never gone down there." Momoa was indignant, but he went down to the subway after the others. "Look at this! There are buildings underground too?" Momoa exclaimed in amazement as he looked around. "Stop looking at the signs to the poles. You better look for Julia," Grover ordered. "The roads are busy, so I decided to take the subway. And I think I'll be on time. I'm already on the subway." explained a girl to someone. Out of the corner of his ear, Momoa heard her voice. "She's over there now!" exclaimed Momoa, pointing his finger in the direction of the girl. At the last split second, a company of dark creatures managed to scramble into the carriage Julia was riding in. "Look, I get the impression that there are people staring at us all the time," Josh said fearfully. "Did you hide well your pretty face?" Momoa asked him. A moment later, the guys realized that people were starting to react to the pheromones Grover was emitting. In order not to draw attention to themselves, the guys decided to drop Grover off at the nearest station. Watching Julia, a group of guys came to the restaurant. Bill dialed Grover to tell him of their whereabouts. "Look at that sneaky guy, luring a girl with food on purpose." Josh was as indignant as ever. "It's a pity you can only see Julia through the window. It's impossible to see her conversation partner from this position," Momoa remarked. "And let's go inside. That way we can get a look at the face of the type we're protecting her from," Bill suggested. When Grover finally reached the restaurant, he saw the guys relaxing quietly. Their faces were upset. "Were you able to find Julia? Why do you have such sad faces?" Grover asked the boys. Josh nodded toward a nearby table. "I came in all expecting Julia to have a really handsome boyfriend, and here this one is. He doesn't act at all like they're dating her. The only good thing about this guy is that he has a good appetite," Grover said with a cheerful grin. "You can see at a glance that he's not her boyfriend, but her father. It's not funny, and she just keeps laughing and laughing. I don't like it. They don't seem to like each other, and they're always talking about business and work." Momoa grumbled. "I think we should head back to the clinic. It's unlikely anything interesting will happen here. I've seen everything I want to see," said Jeremy to his buddies. "By the way, Julia, what about our recent conversation? When are you going to get a boob job already? Wouldn't it be better if you got it done as soon as possible?" Suddenly, Jeremy heard Julia's boyfriend's question. When the company of dark forces saw Jeremy's fists clench, they froze fearfully in place. "What's that creep doing? I'm going to go and finish him off right now," Josh hissed indignantly. "How long has it been since we talked about this? Why are you still procrastinating?" the guy continued to ask Julia. "You see, I'm looking for a suitable clinic, but there are no vacancies at the moment. You'll have to wait a bit." Julia began to justify herself. Suddenly, next to her foot, the girl saw a tri-colored cat. "I recommend getting breasts done as soon as possible. From an editor's point of view, models with shapes are better buys," Julia's boyfriend went on to say. Jeremy froze in place. He began to guess that it wasn't her boyfriend who was sitting in front of Julia, but her editor. "She wants to be a model?" a bunch of guys exclaimed in surprise. "What are you guys doing here? Were you following me?" Suddenly, the girl noticed a group of doctors she knew at a neighboring table. "Julia, how do you know these people?" the editor asked the girl. "I am delighted to meet Julia's new colleagues. I am the editor of the magazine, and I work alongside Julia." The man held out his business card to the boys. "Look at that! He really is an editor!" Momoa exclaimed in admiration. "And why are you reacting like that?" "Yes, I do some part-time modeling. I mostly model for online stores." Julia resented. "And to the end, I can't understand why you came here. Julia, why are you angry with these young people? Since they came here, hadn't we better have lunch together?" asked the girl's editor. "It's a pleasure to meet you, colleague," said the editor and pulled Jeremy's hand. His eyes lit up red. Jeremy felt his breath catch abruptly, as if someone's hand was gripping his throat tightly. "Well, if the editor's okay with it, I'm okay with it," Julia said and touched Jeremy's arm. Jeremy's body was covered with cold sweat. He realized that something was wrong here. There was a very suspicious man sitting in front of him. Right now we have a table for 4, but we're unlikely to fit in here, so we'd better move to a bigger table." Laughing loudly, the editor said, "These people are doctors at the clinic where I work, and this is Jerry Martinez, the editor of the magazine. I've been working with him for years." Julia decided to reacquaint the people sitting at the table. "You guys probably live around here somewhere not too far away? I know this restaurant is only favored by the locals. If you want, we can exchange phone numbers with you." Smiling, said the editor, "Be careful. If you give a pretend kind person a hand, they'll bite it off at the elbow and not choke on it. It's best not to mess with that editor in case he spreads any more negative information about us." Momoa whispered in Grover's ear. By the end of the evening, the group of doctors and the editor parted as good friends. They really had a great time and were able to enjoy each other's company. "You still haven't answered my question. What brings you to this restaurant?" Julia asked Jeremy. "And we were just walking around town and decided to stop by this restaurant for a bite to eat." Jeremy answered the girl, but she didn't believe him. "It was the first time the guys ate together with a person not from our company. I think it was only possible because of you. Thank you so much for your help," said Jeremy to the girl and stroked her head. Suddenly the phone rang in Julia's pocket. It was Carl calling. He announced to the girl that he had recently landed at the airport in her city. "Julia, it's nice to hear your voice again," said Carl into the phone. The next day at work, Julia was in a complete state of stupor. She still couldn't believe that she had heard Carl's voice last night. "Do you happen to know what's up with Julia today? Maybe she's not feeling well again? She's been acting weird since last night. It's like she's in no mood at all. Are you aware of what's going on?" Momoa asked Josh. Momoa glanced toward Jeremy. He was sitting blacker than a cloud. He really wasn't in the mood. "And what's this oppressive atmosphere? Did something happen between you two?" Momoa asked Jeremy. "And explain to me what happened yesterday? Is Julia only using you for the operation?" Momoa asked his buddy in a conspiratorial whisper. The next day, Julia didn't show up for work as she had a shoot. Jeremy decided to drive up to the filming location to take the girl to the clinic. An employee misses work without warning. The bosses have to come and pick him up and see all this lawlessness. Isn't that a little brazen? Jeremy expressed his outrage as Julia looked out the window of his car. "I came down to warn you that my work here isn't over yet. I'm sorry to take up your time. I'll take care of my business quickly now and come over. Alternatively, if you'd like, you can come down to the set and watch me work." Jeremy's presence caused quite a stir on the set. People kept coming up to him to see his face. "Julia brought her acquaintance here. His face is beautiful to the point of goosebumps," noted one of the cameramen. "Your skin is so soft and smooth, and your eyes are like gems," the makeup girl admired. The girl didn't hold back and reached out her hand to touch Jeremy's neck. "What are you doing? Haven't you been told that touching a stranger is not allowed? Don't you think you're being rude?" Julia asked the girl and took her hand away from Jeremy's neck. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I was doing. I promise it won't happen again." The veil fell from her eyes and she realized what she had done. "I apologize to my staff for their behavior. I am also extremely surprised. I never thought they would act like that," said Julia to Jeremy. They announced the start of filming. Jeremy stayed in his seat to watch Julia work. Julia's good, isn't she? Loyal to her cause, very capable. But I didn't expect her to be as good at socializing, to have made such wonderful friends. Jeremy heard a male voice beside him. "As soon as I walked onto the set, I immediately realized everything. You're a dark person belonging to the Lucifer bloodline. I've only seen this kind of person twice, but I recognized you right away." "Would you like some tea? Really, it's getting cold," offered Jeremy the man. I forgot. You don't eat what the lower class eats. By the way, how did you even meet Julia? You're obviously not her boyfriend. Maybe you're her friend, but it's not like I don't know about her friends." After reading the man's aura, Jeremy realized that he was facing a dark entity of the devil's kind. There was a chance that the attack on the girl outside the clinic was his doing. "From what you've said here, even knowing what I am, you must believe in something. I know there are only 6 members of your kind. I've never seen your face among the really good clans." Listening to the man who suddenly appeared, said Jeremy, "And let's check to see how many tags are behind your ears." Jeremy whispered quietly, "How wonderful that you two have met. I was just coming here to introduce you two to each other." An overjoyed Julia suddenly appeared next to the boys. "Carl, I'd like you to meet Jeremy, and he's just my acquaintance." Julia stammered for a second, not knowing how to properly introduce Jeremy. Julia, you are so good. You did your job just fine, as always. Clark smiled cheerfully at the girl. Did you see the whole thing? And I think I'm a little short. A little embarrassed, the girl admitted. No, you're wrong. You did a very good job. You were beautiful as always. Clark gently stroked the girl's face. Is this really the type Julia likes? Jeremy wondered. Listen, now that your filming's over, why don't we have lunch together? I found out there's a good place nearby. Why don't we go there? Clark asked the girl. Why don't I see you at the clinic a little later? The girl turned to Jeremy. The man knew that Julia was not acted upon by the seduction of dark entities. Staying with Clark had been her conscious decision. Clark smirked gloatingly as he watched his disappointed opponent walk away with nothing. Dr. Brooks hates large crowds, but for my sake he agreed to come to the set. He also came from the clinic here to pick me up. Julia thought sadly. She felt like she had betrayed Jeremy. Julia, is something wrong? Why aren't you saying anything? Clark noticed that the girl was upset about something. Clark, I'm sorry, but we should probably have lunch with you next time, said Julia to the surprised man. The girl turned abruptly and hurried toward the exit. Jeremy could clearly see a few tags behind Clark's ear. He knew that the more noble a dark entity was, the fewer marks he had on his body. Therefore, since Clark had 2 tags, it meant that his desire was unbearable and his origin was low. And why did I have that particular piece of garbage attached to her? With a heavy sigh, Jeremy whispered. Who are you talking about now? Asked Julia, walking up to Jeremy. What are you doing here? Jeremy asked, surprised. The man didn't hear the girl's footsteps approaching. This had never happened to him before. It wasn't like him at all. You see, I was thinking that I wouldn't lose anything if I didn't go out to lunch with him. Besides, I'm not hungry yet, Julia said, and her stomach rumbled. After buying herself a sandwich, Julia, along with Jeremy, headed to the park. You've probably already realized that this was the kind of person I like. Chewing appetizingly, Julia said, My parents died early, so I lived with my grandmother. I've known Clark for a long time, since high school. He's always been there for me. He's more than a friend to me. I think of him as a big brother, Julia told Jeremy. So how long is he going to keep ignoring you? Jeremy asked the girl. Don't think Clark isn't like that. He doesn't even know about my feelings. I've never told him about them. You see, I feel awkward around him. I know he's surrounded by all the hotties all the time. Julia stepped up to Clark's defense. I think I'm going to leave here someday. I know it's a stupid idea, but I wonder if I do. Will Clark want to see me again? Even if he's special to you, that doesn't mean he's perfect at everything. I admire you. At least to me, the special one is you. Jeremy admitted to the girl. Dr. Brooks, is there anyone you like? Julia asked. Not at the moment, no. Then who's the girl in the picture? I'm sorry, I didn't peek on purpose. It happened by accident. This is my sister. The man I could call my father died before I was born, so I lived with my mother and younger sister, told the girl Jeremy. Well, where is she now? Julia inquired. Since you've already eaten, let's go to the clinic. Jeremy ignored the girl's question. After finishing her work and walking out into the hallway from her room, Julia met Clark in the hallway. Have you finished your work yet? I was so upset I couldn't even get a bite down my throat. I remembered that you said you were working at the clinic, so I thought I'd stop by and see you. Smiling happily, Clark told the girl. By the way, are those people behind you all your friends? You refused to eat lunch with me, so let's at least have dinner together. Jeremy suggested that Clark talk privately in the parking lot. Who are you guys? Clark asked the company of young doctors. We're the ones who should be asking you that question. Quickly answer, who are you? Exclaimed Josh. By the way, and I remembered you, your recent son. Your father is a dark entity. He broke the taboo and fell in love with a mortal woman. When she had a child with him, he disappeared without a trace. Jeremy Clark. What are you guys discussing? The atmosphere's a little tense. Julia came down to the parking lot. That's not surprising. I was just telling your friends to take good care of you. Clark replied to the girl. Since you're ready now, we can go. Clark put his arm around the girl's shoulders and led her toward his car. It's sad about that, but maybe I can show you something interesting? Clark asked Jeremy with a sly grin. Clark lifted Julia's hair and Jeremy saw the black mark on her neck. A dark entity from the Lucifer family, the Asmodeus clan, can leave unique markings on a person's body. They can be of different shapes and sizes. The mark can be left on any part of a person's body. Grover read from an ancient book. The tag allows the dark entity to know where its victim is at any moment. Next time, at least call me before you drive here, because I don't always know when I'll be free. The girl asked Clark. But anyway, thank you for having me over for dinner. How was your shoot for the popular magazine? No big deal. It was the same as always. Clark replied to the girl. You've been to a lot of famous places, seen a lot of things. I envy you. Julia exclaimed in admiration. Will you stop talking about me? Better tell me how your grandmother is doing. Clark decided to change the topic of conversation. Grandma's fine. I called her yesterday. She was asking about you. She wants to see you soon. If you need money, don't hesitate to tell me about it. Don't you have enough pocket money that I send you? Why did you get a job at this clinic? Clark asked the girl. I bought you presents, but you weren't even interested in them, Clark said in a hurt voice. You don't need to send me money. I can earn it myself, and I didn't touch the money you sent me. In a sad voice, the girl replied to Clark. Julia is tired of the man treating her like a child. He completely misses the girl in her. There's no doubt now that Julia was attacked by Clark's men. He exposed himself by blowing up the victim he marked, exclaimed Momoa fearfully. Does your clever little book say what happens to a person who's been tagged? Josh asked. From the moment a mark is placed on a person, the dark entity's appetite begins to grow stronger every day. Unfortunately, Clark belongs to the 4th rank with the lowest level of resistance. Grover explained to Josh. So how do you get rid of that mark? Momoa asked. If the mark is placed on a dark entity, it can be removed with no problem. If it's on a person, you have to either kill them or kiss the marked spot. How about we go to my house after dinner? Clark suggested to the girl. Julia was surprised by what she heard. Clark had behaved a little differently with her before. He'd treated her well, but nothing more. He'd never had any free time for Julia. Damn, Julia isn't answering. She's probably busy doing something, so she doesn't see she's getting a call, Grover exclaimed irritably. Momoa, step on the gas! Why are you weaving like a turtle? How much longer do we have to go? In the other car, Josh shouted angrily. Momoa got a message on his phone from his old friend Elizabeth. The girl had good connections in the police force, so she was able to get the addresses of 4 of Clark's houses. It's okay that this asshole has 4 houses. We'll visit each one, said Grover into the phone. I'm most interested in where Jeremy is now. He ran out of his office hours ago and still hasn't shown up. Bill shared his fears. Come on in, don't be shy, sorry. There's hardly anything here because I rarely use this apartment. Clark suggested the girl make herself at home in this apartment. Julia's gaze fell on the bed. The blanket and sheet lay in complete disarray. There was also a note left on the bed. It had a phone number on it. Judging by the kiss, it had been left by a woman. Do you want to open your presents? I picked them out especially for you. The last time I saw you, you were really nice, so I wanted to make you happy, said Clark to the girl. Clark, what am I to you? Julia asked unexpectedly. You're always a sweet princess sister to me. Without delay, Clark replied to the girl. Of course you always say that. Do you ever take me seriously at all? You go away and come back without saying a word to me. I've waited so long to hear from you, and you've been silent, Julia said in a quiet voice. I'm nothing to you, am I? The girl's eyes filled with tears. Julia, why don't we start dating? Clark suggested unexpectedly to the girl. I don't know if you'd believe me if I told you that you just couldn't be a nobody to me. Clark wiped the tears from the girl's eyes. Josh put his ear to the door to listen to what was going on behind it. Well, why don't you say something? Don't keep me in suspense. What's going on in there? Do you hear anything? An excited voice asked Momoa. I can't take it anymore! Back off! I'm going to kick this door down! Momoa exclaimed, and swung his fist to kick the door with one punch. Wait, you shouldn't do that. If you kick the door in, you'll have to justify yourself to the landlord. How will you explain to him why you broke into his house? What if he decides to call the police? Josh decided to stop his buddy from doing something rash. We should first make sure Julia is in danger before we act. And you know what? I have an idea. Josh led Momoa to the roof of the building. This is your brilliant idea? Momoa asked fearfully. Josh climbed over the railing on the roof and rested his feet against the wall of the building. All the dark entities had a unique ability. They could move through walls with ease. You know, I've never done this before, and I absolutely hate the way it looks. Momoa was afraid to make the first move. After a few minutes of conquering his fear, Momoa followed his buddy. Well, here we are getting to the right balcony, and you were afraid, said Josh's buddies. Taking advantage of his ability, Momoa opened the curtains that blocked their entire view. What the hell is going on? Momoa asked, surprised, peering into the apartment. Sitting across from the window was Clark. He was holding a dark-haired girl on his lap. Look who came here! This should be fun now, Clark muttered, not hiding his joy.